All right, let's try and bring you this conversation once again as we focus on violence in the taxi industry in the Western Cape. Let's bring in the province's MEC for Mobility now, Isaac Sileku. Isaac, I'm hoping you can hear us now.
Yeah, Michelle, good afternoon.
Okay, great.
Good morning. I can hear you clearly now, thanks.
Thank you for joining us. So the Western Cape Provincial Government now temporarily shutting down the Somerset West taxi rank. Of course, it's in response to a whole range of issues, but specifically ongoing tensions between operators. And again, it's the old story over routes.
Yeah, Michelle, thank you very much. In terms of the closing of the taxi rank, specifically in Somerset West, it has been done from the side of South African Police Services, because from the side of mobility, we are still engaging on our own processes of making sure that we bring stability within the minibus taxi industry. And I must say, it's an old story. You know, every year we find ourselves in this position where operators and associations always find, themselves, exchanging guns and exchanging violence instead of sitting down and trying to come and resolving their disputes, which is very disappointing at this time and age.
Yeah, I mean, in the latest incident, 2 taxi operators were shot dead in Makassar yesterday. A passenger and a 55-year-old woman also wounded in that attack. But there are many, many more victims in the saga.
Yeah, to be honest with you, that's what we are saying from the side of government. We really condemn what is currently happening. We just had a peace summit on the 4th of August, where some of the taxi operators and leaders within the industry were actually saying, we welcome what you are doing as a Department of Mobility, because some of us are really tired of what is currently happening, where there's always bloodshed within the minibus taxi industry. And as a result, our commuters, are always caught in the crossfire. And we are saying to them now, if you don't resolve, amongst yourself, we as government are going to take strong action. And that's what we are doing as the Department of Mobility, making sure that we are going to approach the court. We get an interdict against these associations, and ultimately we are going to continue looking at some of the routes that we need to suspend, and ultimately so that people stop what they are doing, because we cannot continue in this day and age, of always having, resolve or resorting to guns, when we want to resolve issues, which is totally unacceptable. And it is our responsibility as the government of this province to make sure that we condemn lawlessness, we don't condone lawlessness, and we are not going to, appreciate people killing each other for nothing in our province. We are going to make sure that...
Sorry to interrupt you there, Isaac. The irony of this peace summit collapsing, right? The obvious repercussion has been, as we saw yesterday in Makassar, a loss of life, but it's also just broadly put commuters at risk. It's put the public at risk. There will obviously also be interruptions to services now that the province is taking these drastic steps.
No, let me address the issue of the peace summit. And we need to be very, we are clear on that one. We have a responsibility of making sure that there is peace in our province. And the peace summit was one of the, of the things, of the measures that we are undertaking from the side of government to make sure that there is continuous dialogue amongst CODETA, CATA, and the government. And we know it was not going to be a silver bullet just by having one conversation and everything is going to be normal. Like I was saying, there are those that welcome our initiative. They want to work with the government. And there are those that are rogue elements within the minibus taxi industry. And those are the ones that don't want us to continue, that don't want peace. But also in terms of us, whenever we bring in these measures of closing, of suspending certain routes or lanes at our taxi ranks, we must, of course, make sure that it does not impact on the commuter that needs to go to school, that needs to go to work, that needs to go to hospital. So there is contingency measures that we are putting in place for alternative transport so that people are not, affected when we take these measures. We are considering all those measures because it is important that people go to work, they are able to go to school, and they're able to go to our healthcare services.
Right. So tell us about these alternative measures for commuters that are impacted specifically by the closure of some routes.
Yeah, Michelle, thank you very much for that. There is different modes of transport that, like we have done in Mbekweni when we had a similar situation, which was B97. We were very fortunate to use Golden Arrows bus services, which is subsidized by the state we are also looking at considering that option as well. So ultimately, we are going to make sure that those that need to go and work so that they can feed their families, they are not disadvantaged. We are going to do everything in our power to make sure that they are able to get to work.
Of course, there are operators, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, Isaac, but there are operators, perhaps even in these taxi organizations, there are some operators who are trying to work in line with the letter of the law.
Yeah, Michelle, I must say, honestly, that's why we are saying as government, and we are not going to be derailed, and we are not going to lose hope, and we are not going to, throw the baby out with the bathwater because of such things. Because we have a responsibility towards those that wants to see peace, those ones that are really earning a living for their families, that wants to follow the law, that does follow the law, and there are those that just use the opportunity to do criminal things and elements, and those are the ones that we need to use law enforcement and deal with them. And ours is to support those that want to work with us. And those that want to make our life difficult, we are going to use the law, we are going to use our regulatory framework to make sure that they don't succeed. We are going to foster forward and make sure that we bring stability within the minibus taxi industry, because we cannot operate like we operated in 1985. So the industry needs to change because time has changed and things need to change. We must use our own powers from the side of mobility in terms of regulatory framework, we are going to do that. We are not going to compromise, because ultimately what we want to see safety in our province. We cannot allow lawlessness, and we must make sure that commuters that uses public transport are safe and they are not compromised.
So the announcement of the Somerset West taxi rank, its closure for 24 hours, when did that officially come into play, Isaac, and when does that expire?
No, it came into effect yesterday at 2 p.m. and it will expire today at 2 p.m. But ultimately what we're going to do, if it needs be that we need to extend and have another 24-hour closure, we are going to do that, because ultimately it's all about the safety of these residents of this province, and we are going to do whatever necessary within our powers and within our counterparts from SEPs to do that. We are going to do that.
Yeah, and part of that is the Section 91 notice that you've talked about, right? The Section 91 notice that will be issued. And part of what that means is that continued violations could see temporary, as is the case with the Somerset West taxi rank, temporary closure of particular ranks, or even the permanent closure of ranks and routes that are the worst affected.
That's correct, because currently now we are busy with our notice. We are going to share the notice, and because ultimately we need to follow what the law prescribes. We need to give the notice, and then we must give operators and associations an opportunity to comment. And after we have heard their views, I'll have to make the last determination. And by the look of things in terms of time, by the 3rd of September, I must make a final decision whether I'm going to suspend some of the routes or not. It will all depend in terms of submission. But what is important is that we are going to publish our intent for suspending some of the routes and roads, and that is our intent from the side of government, so that we make sure that there is stability within the minibus taxi industry.
It almost feels like something that is out of reach, doesn't it, Isaac? Stability in the industry and among organizations like Cadeta and Kata.
If one follows the history of the minibus taxi industry, someone will say it will never change. But also because I'm a South African, we know where we come from as a country. There were times when we thought that we would never find, democracy within our country. But today we are actually reaping the rewards of people that have fought for democracy. So we can never, abandon the fight for peace within the minibus taxi industry, because we have seen it. There is possibilities, because we as a country, we have found ourselves wanting at one particular time, but because we are resolute, we wanted peace, we are able to get that. And I'm also confident from the side of government, we will do whatever necessary to make sure that we bring peace and stability within the minibus taxi industry.